Welcome back. We're going to be developing our WordPress website by developing it locally. What does that mean? When you develop locally, you are developing on your computer. And unlike a standard HTML and CSS website, which can be easily developed on your computer, WordPress requires certain resources. And as you can see on screen, this website is MAMP and MAMP Pro. It includes my Apache, MySQL, PHP. And these are important resources that WordPress needs. And what MAMP does is create a local development server that allows WordPress to run on our computer. The reason that you want to develop locally is that you can develop without any prying eyes. Your website is not live. Your website is only for your eyes, and you can release it only when you feel it is ready. So why don't we get started? We're going to download MAMP. As you can see, there are two flavors here. There is MAMP and there is MAMP Pro. The regular MAMP is free, so as far as I'm concerned, I have been able to do pretty much everything I need to do with the free version. If you want to download the paid version, you are certainly free to do that, but I would start with the free version because, let's face it, free is always better. So we're downloading MAMP, and I'm developing on a Mac, so you can see that we're choosing the Mac OS, and we're just going to download this now. I always download to my installers. I have a folder just for installers, and so this is where I always send my downloads to. As you can see, I already have a copy, but I am just going through this to show you the process. So I'm going to replace the MAMP that I have in my installers. If you are a big Twitter user and you want to follow MAMP on Twitter, then by all means. Right now, I'm not going to bother. I'm now going to go to my desktop. Let's hide Chrome for a moment. We're going to open up my hard drive, and we're going to go to installers and then find MAMP. And perhaps the easiest way is to click on the date modified, and there it is. So we're just going to open up MAMP. This is the package. If you are on a PC, then this process is going to be a bit different for you, but MAMP does develop for both Mac and PC. So we're going to continue. There's the license, and you click continue, and you have to agree to those long list of terms and conditions, which you can read if you want to do so. So we're just going to install now. And we're going to install the software. As you can see, it's installing now. It takes a few minutes. This is a good time to take a sip of your coffee while you are following along. Have a bite of your apple pie or whatever you have next to you, and when this downloads, we will go to the next step. So we have confirmation that MAMP was successfully installed. So let's go take a look. On a Mac, what you're going to do is open up your main hard drive, go to Applications, and scroll down to, of course, the M's, because that is what MAMP is. Now, what they do is that they give you both MAMP and a complimentary or a trial version of MAMP Pro. Again, if you want to upgrade to MAMP Pro, that's up to you, but I would start with the free version. So I'm going to open up this folder so we can talk about what we've got. There is a lot here, and there is no reason for you to be nervous about any of this. The only folder that we need to even worry about here is htdocs. But what we're going to do first is we're going to launch MAMP. So what you see is that we have now a startup screen, and it's going to open up a web start page. Once it is up and running, and there we are. So that there is a lot of information here, but these are some important things for you to know. We're going to need to know the name of the host. We're going to need the user, and we're going to need the password once we get started. But the next step is we're going to download WordPress. So I'm going to open up a brand new browser window, and we're going to type in WordPress. And right at the top there, it says Blog Tool Publishing Program and CMS. And right there, big blue button, download WordPress. So click on there, and it's going to bring us right to the download button here. We're going to be downloading WordPress 4.9.1. This is the most recent version, and it is always important with WordPress. If you install WordPress, you want to keep your version of your WordPress and include plus your plugins. Whatever plugins you install, you always want to keep these updated. WordPress and many of the plugin developers are constantly updating their software to allow for mainly security issues. There's a lot of bad actors out on the web that are constantly trying to attack WordPress and any other websites. So the WordPress does a good job of keeping everything pretty safe. They're very aware of the threats, and so that they made sure that everything is kept safe. So we're just going to click this button, and again, I'm going to put this into my installers. And it downloaded pretty quickly. So I'm going to hide. I'm going to close this window since we have downloaded WordPress already. I am going to hide Google Chrome for a moment. And we are going to go to WordPress. So now that we have downloaded WordPress, we're just going to go back to our installers, and because we have everything sorted by date modified, it's right there at the top. So all we need to do is double click the WordPress 4.9.1 zip file, and it will extract, and we now have a WordPress folder with all of the WordPress files in it. And all we're going to do is we're going to drag this over to the htdocs inside the MAMP folder. And once we have it there, what we want to do is rename the folder. We're going to call this WP-dev. WordPress for web development. That's my shorthand. And what we have here right now is you'll see that there's one file here, wp-config sample.php. This is actually the heart and soul of WordPress. What we need to do right now before we go any further is we need to go to Tools. We need to go to PHP MyAdmin. That wp-config file is going to be able to communicate with a database that we're going to create right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on databases, and we are going to type in the name of a new database. We're going to call it WP for DEV underscore DB. DB stands for database. We're going to create, and you're going to see what it says right here is no tables found in database, and that's perfectly fine. WordPress files are basically empty template files, and they get their information from the database. I will explain this more in depth a little bit later, but for right now, all you need to do is follow along. Once you have your database, what we're going to do is we're going to copy this because we're going to need it for that WP config file. And I like to make sure that I copy just to make sure that there are no misspellings, because that means that it's very strict. WordPress likes the file names to be correct, so that we're going to take care of that right now. We are going back to the MAMP folder here. We're going to rename the WP config-sample.php file to just wp-config.php. The sample is simply a sample to show you that that's what it's just a sample of what it's supposed to be. We're going to set the name, and then what we need to do is open up this file, and I'm going to be using Brackets. Brackets is basically a free code editor, and let me just show you where that is. Open up a new folder, and we're going to just type in and you will see it brings you right to the Brackets site. It is a modern open source text editor that understands web design. This is important. The open source is the most important part here because, like WordPress, Brackets is open source. This basically means that a lot of people voluntarily work on this software, and then afterwards they release it for anyone to use for free. And so it is a great resource to be able to use at no cost to yourself, so that there are plenty of paid code editors out there, plenty of premium ones, but why, if you're just learning, Brackets is just fine. I'm going to close this because I already have a copy of Brackets running. And there it is. I am now going to open. We're going to go to htdocs. We're going to open up this, and we need to open up the WP config file, which is right here. Now there's a lot here, but don't let this scare you. What we need to do, if you remember, you see the DB name right here. What we need to do is highlight the database name, and then we are going to paste the database we created there. Database name, that is the one we created, and as you can see right over here that that's what it is. And if I go back to the MAMP, you're going to see that there are a number of values here. There is user, which is root. There is password, which is root. So we're going to go back to Brackets, and we're going to the username. See the DB user, comma, and so what's after the comma in between the single quotes, we're just going to type in root. That is the user, and then the password. See the my SQL, my SQL database password, and what comes right after this comma in between the single quotes, that is also root. So we're going to save this. Now down here, this is an important security aspect for WordPress. What we're going to do, all of these keys right here, these have to do with keeping WordPress secure. There are certainly more steps you can take, but this is one of the most basic ones. And in order to get the keys for these, because you see it says put your unique phrase here, we are going to highlight this web address that they make available to us. We're going to copy this. We're just going to bring up a new window and put that address into the address bar. And what you can see here is that they have made these values available to us. Every time you bring one of these up, these keys are completely different. They randomize it. But this is a basic security feature of WordPress. We're just going to copy that. We are going to close this. And then we're going to go back to our brackets and highlight all of this. Paste. So now we are ready. We're just going to save this. And if you remember what we called our folder, this is WP Dev. Copy. And you will notice what the address says up here. We are just going to highlight everything where there is this / just before the map. You want to leave that, but highlight everything else and paste in. There it is, WP Dev. Hit return. And there we have the installation screen. So what we're going to do is continue. And we are going to put in our values right now. So now we are at the WordPress installation screen, and this is where it needs the parameters to be able to install. And so that the first parameter is the title, Word. And I had done a test, and so that my values are there. The username, I'm going to just use a previous one that I had. And this is R. Grimes. If you are fans of a certain horror TV show, I'm just using this because some of the robots might not know it. And then finally, we have the password. And it says that it's a strong password, so it needs my email. And finally, we want to discourage search engines. There's no way a search engine could come into your computer and look around, but in any case, this is how I always like to start with my WordPress installations, because I want to have the privacy to develop this until I'm ready for anyone else to see it. So we're just going to click Install WordPress, and we're going to let it do its thing. So there we have WordPress installed. We're just going to go to visit the site. And what you can see is the basic 2017 theme. And it's a beautiful theme. I don't think it's particularly useful because I'm not a fan of any themes that require you to scroll way, way down in order to see the content. That to me it's a beautiful picture, but websites are about communication. And if all of your important information is below the fold like this, we can do a whole lot better. So now we are going to start creating our theme. So let's get started on that.